Everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and joining me tonight, as always, is my sidekick Austin. It's time for part 91 of our top 100 favorite superhero movies of all time, and we're just going to jump straight into it. You guys know the drill. We've been doing this forever. You guys will get to show us your favorite 50 superhero movies soon. There's a link in the description. Get those in when you can, because we're actually not that far away from the end of this finally. But it's going to take at least a couple, three more, and we're gonna get right into it. Austin, what is your number 15 favorite superhero movie of all time?
Number 15. My number 15 is Spider-Man Homecoming.
Wow, you had it quite a bit higher than I did.
Yes.
Mine was at 26. I'm actually flabbergasted that you had it that much higher than I did.
No, I actually had it a little bit higher, but then as I was going through, I was like, things were kind of just slowly winning out. I was like, no, I'd probably watch this over Homecoming.
People are gonna think we're nuts. Like we had some folks in.
There's a lot of people that are like, you guys you like this trash? I don't know.
I had a couple people that were fighting me really hard. Where they're like, well, here are all the reasons that you can't say it's your definitive Spider-Man. Like, I mean, a lot of his supporting cast is missing. Tony Stark is too much of a part of it, and I'm like, nah, it's all about characterization, though.
But I'm also like. Ditko is my favorite Spider-Man. Like, all that supporting cast stuff also isn't there at that point. So like, I don't care about that. Like, you can bring that in later. Like, it's fine that's not in the first movie. And Tony Stark's barely in that movie. Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, to me, he fits the role of like Fantastic Four and a lot of that early Spider-Man stuff. Like, I don't know, it's fine.
Okay, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, go for it.
How much of it is Keaton?
Not as much as you'd probably think. So I also just really like Tom Holland.
Yeah, sure, fair enough.
I really like how small that film is.
Well, I'm not even saying that because I'm a giant Keaton fan. It's just their Vulture is so good.
Yeah, no, and the Vulture is like one of my least favorite of like the big main Spider-Man villains, and he's one of my favorite MCU villains. So he is genuinely really good in it. He's definitely a big part of it. But no, I feel like just kind of everything comes together for me with that movie. Like, there's like a couple things, but like for the most part, to me, it is the closest we've had to a perfect Spider-Man film. I think it's just really overall really good. And yeah.
It'll be interesting to do the rewind commentary on that with you, because I didn't realize you were quite as high as I was on that. It sounds like maybe even a little bit higher than me.
No, it was a big deal. Like, that is one of the best theatrical experiences I've ever had. Was the first time seeing it with my dad. Like, it really like flashed me back to watching like the '60s show with him as a kid, and I was like, I feel like I'm like finally getting Spider-Man on film in a way that I never really had before. It was really cool.
Yeah, and like I keep saying it's my favorite live-action Spider-Man movie, and it is. But much to some folks' chagrin, but I also see it as a really good late stage MCU movie because, like I said when I talked about this earlier, I just love how much of a mirror for the first Iron Man that is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, and I think I said it when you brought it up too, but like, it was a really big deal for me that it's finally a Spider-Man film that is actually like pushed forward by his choices. Like, it's everything that happens in that movie happens because Peter Parker chooses something, and like it's crazy to me it took that long for that to actually be the case. And I think I talked about this when we did Spider-Man.
Yeah, there's some lip service with some of the others, but it feels more genuine there, like real actions and consequences.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. Like, I think I mentioned it when we did Spider-Man 2 on Rewind. Um, but one of the things I always kind of get frustrated with that movie is that I don't think it's Peter's choice at the end of the day to become Spider-Man. Like, he's kind of pushed into it because Doc Ock kidnaps Mary Jane and all that. It's like it I think goes too far where he kind of has to be Spider-Man. While I think Homecoming has it at the end where it puts Peter in a place where he can just walk away, and he doesn't. And there's nothing that is like actively drawing him where he has to do it. He can easily walk away and just turn a blind eye, but he doesn't.
Well, and again, looking at it as an MCU movie, also mad props for the choice to have him say, "Nah, I don't want to be an Avenger," because
even though they like dropped the ball afterwards.
But just look at that movie as that movie.
Yeah.
I like how much did you respect both the character and the filmmakers in that moment?
Mm-hmm.
Because everything's about Avengers right then with Marvel, and in comics we could not keep him away from the Avengers, and we're making a big grand statement about him as a street level everyman hero with his not joining the Avengers. But also it's just the perfect kind of cap for his character arc. We're like, yeah, he knows he's not there yet. Like, the character's not doing that because he knows I don't want Spider-Man to be an Avenger. The character is doing that because he's not ready for it. He's got to live.
Exactly.
He's got to live some more life first, and that's the first. I guess the second sense of just how much more mature he's becoming by realizing he's not mature enough yet. I mean, that's wonderful. He goes, "I'm still a kid. I'm not there."
Yeah. No, and I don't know if you've heard like any of the rumors with Doomsday, but I feel like we're getting to a point where we might possibly have like another great thing we can do with Spider-Man there, because apparently the rumor is that Holland's too busy because of that Odyssey film he's making. So for Avengers, he's mostly going to be like a stunt guy in a costume with his mask on for most of it. And I'm like, are we like getting to another place like that where we can finally like separate him more, like we kind of were doing with Homecoming?
It'll be really funny if we go like, and I know you won't know what I'm talking about with this, but if we go like Power Rangers Dino Thunder, where he's just like voicing the character most of the time, where we just see Spider-Man in costume and Tom Holland comes in for 2 hours to do all of his lines of dialogue. Because we did that with Tommy and a lot of Dino Thunder. What's that?
He comes in, he's like, "Whoa, that's awesome!" And then he gets his payday and he leaves.
Yeah, he comes in, or like he starts things and he doesn't finish them. He's like, "It's like that really old movie." What really old movie, Spider-Man? Oh, all right. Then we just move on.
He just stares at them. I hope he has McFarlane Spider-Man eyes for that.
My kids were watching that movie just a week or two ago, and I watched the tail end of it again, and I was like, God, that has a good last scene.
Yeah. I also think it has one of the cooler Spider-Man climaxes. I don't know that we'll ever be able to top that first one. Like, just how intimate that fight with the Goblin is.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
But I do think that plane sequence is genuinely really cool in that it's really big, but in a way that's very small, where both Spider-Man and Vulture seem way too small for the thing that they're in. Where like neither of them can like really move around. Like, it's not especially like crazy action. Like, it's very kind of methodical in that way, and I think it's really cool.
Well, I just love the reveal that Tony Stark really did have a press conference and he really was going to make Peter an Avenger. It's kind of this fun flip where like Peter is becoming more mature, and we're seeing how Tony is still not as mature as he could be, even though he's the mentor now, and he's gone through a lot of stuff and he's learned a lot, but still, like, he's the guy saying you're not ready for the suit yet. And then you get to the end of the movie and it's like, yeah, he's not ready to be an Avenger. What are you doing, dude? Like, it's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, I don't know. I really like Homecoming, and I feel like with each of these movies, there's more and more people that don't like them. Like looking back, but I don't know. I genuinely really like Homecoming.
I wonder if one or both of the sequels have soured some people a little bit on Homecoming, because I find it really easy to look at that in a vacuum, and maybe it shouldn't be, because it also, I mean, part of my high with that was it felt like a really great start for a franchise, and then I think it misses the boat entirely after that. But I mean, there's fun things here and there in both of their sequels, but it's not at all the direction I thought it was going to go, where I thought it ought to go. But that movie is still a good enough piece on its own that I don't feel like the sequels sour it for me. I also have not gone back to it a lot, and that might be because of the sequels, but I'm able to retain my appreciation for it.
No, I mean I agree with that completely. None of the like I like Far From Home well enough, and then I don't like No Way Home, but neither of them live up to Homecoming like at all. There's just like a curse that Mephisto put on Spider-Man that he can't have 3 good consecutive films.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but it's a thing apparently. But what's your number 15? Oh, sorry, unless you had something else to say.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was about to move on. My number 15 is X-Men: Days of Future Past.
That is surprisingly low. I did not expect that to be that low.
You know, the last time we talked about it, I don't want to say that I soured on it, but it was one of the worst viewings I've had of it. And because we did the rewind commentary on that, I think, a little while before we made these lists, and
yes,
it might have been a little higher before that. There's also just so many movies, and I got to be careful about having too many movies in a franchise, you know, too high, because there's just a lot of franchises that I like that I want to get placements for. But I do think a decade ago this would have been in my top 10, and I have appreciated more of its flaws the more I've looked at it, but it's still a deeply personal movie for me, with all of the 70s Xavier stuff, and I've talked about this, but just some stuff I was going on in my life, or that was going on in my life at the time, where I was doing some of the same soul searching he was right then. That was a movie I really needed right then. And then just the novelty of getting to see those two teams in the same movie together, the way that was handled was really fun. Getting the Ottman theme back, I was talking about that. That was a big deal for me. And in some ways, it's the opposite of Homecoming in that the sequels maybe did hurt it just a smidge. Just because some of what I loved about that was that it felt like such an exciting, start for some other things, even though we've talked a lot about how it was a misstep not to make another movie before that. Like, I completely agree with you that should have been the third in a trilogy, not the second in a trilogy. And then it gets weird because then it's sort of a quadrilogy and not a very good one. Overall, but the difference between that and Homecoming is Homecoming feels like a good, it's weird I'm comparing these, but Homecoming is a really good, sorry Austin, are you with me?
Yeah. Sorry, am I too still?
Yeah, I thought we had a glitch. Actually, I'm sorry, can you give me just 1 second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because my cat is down here meowing really hard at me, and I think I closed the door and she's wanting to get upstairs. So I'm going to be very distracted by this meowing if I don't go take care of her.
Oh, yeah, I just heard it, yeah.
Yeah, so give me just a second. I'll hold the fort for a minute.
Yeah,
Austin,
okay.
and I'll be right back.
I believe that was just the kitty that Cap was looking for, if you catch my drift. Let's see what people are saying in the chat. Robert Wild, I still like Days of Future Past more than any of the Avengers films. I mean, that's fair. I don't have that, but I mean, I can understand that. I definitely think it's one of the better of those kind of like big event, like bring everyone back things. And now Cap's back. Now he can glowingly talk about that more than I ever could.
Thanks for keeping that going, Austin. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Well, and at the time, there was just this great novelty in bringing that cast back, because I never thought we'd see any of them again. And admittedly, that can be a really cheap gimmick, but it actually told a real story, and it gave us a legitimately decent reason for Wolverine to be at the center of it, and that shouldn't have worked, and I should have hated that, but I didn't. But anyway, with the Homecoming thing, obviously that's an opening volley, and I'm excited to see how that character evolves from there, but there's not specific plot points that are being set up for later installments. That's the thing I'm wanting to come back for more for. It's more just the way the character's introduced. Days of Future Past did have that, where I'm like, how is the timeline going to change, and how's it going to be kind of like Star Trek '09 soft rebooty with things like you've got Mystique pretending to be Stryker, and she's got Wolverine, and then we're not going to do anything with that. All right. So like I was too excited about specific plot things moving forward, and so that's why the sequels knock it a little bit now. But
no, I mean that's fair, especially like you said, like that is a clean slate film.
And it's still a fun movie.
And then
to go...
you get the two worst X-Men films after it.
Yeah, like it is, or at least they're way up there. Apocalypse absolutely is the worst X-Men film now. I hate that movie, like burning passion.
Yeah, I'm flipped. Mine's Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix is just stupid.
It's really boring.
Yeah, but I'll kind of take that over, because at least here's the thing: at least Apocalypse was, or sorry, at least Dark Phoenix was made by an incompetent filmmaker.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And so I can give it a little bit of slack where I'm like, well, yeah, there's no talent here. Of course it sucks. But then Apocalypse, I was excited for Singer to come back, and then the very next one he makes is is the worst X-Men movie.
Well, I mean, I also think you have. I can also understand, because I think you have with that what I have with the sequel trilogy, where the second one is so bad, that being Apocalypse with this, because obviously I know that's not exactly what it is, but if you were to count that as a trilogy, starting with Days of Future Past, Apocalypse is so bad and built off of something that you really cared about, and then Dark Phoenix is a sequel to something you hate. So it's like, you're not coming in with those expectations in the same way where I was like, oh, well, it's already over, with the sequel trilogy. So like, it's... I think that's a lot of it too.
Well, that's why I just can't be as angry with Dark Phoenix, because that's exactly what I have with that. Is I'm like, it's over by this point. Like I'm sitting there going, yeah, that's about what I expected. So I don't hate it as much as Apocalypse, but I don't like it at all. Like,
no, it's completely fair.
It's not even that I think Dark Phoenix is any better than Apocalypse. I'm out of vitriol by that point. Like there's no gas left in the tank. But now we're just talking about this again. Look, we can get to this when we do our top 50 worst movies, and it's going to be hard for like a sixth of that to not be in the X-Men franchise for me. But we'll see what happens. That I'm not going to be as careful about how many installments in a franchise there are. I don't think. Although I'm acting like I'm being careful. There's a lot of Batman on my list. I don't really know what the hell I'm talking about.
Your list is going to be entirely X-Men. My list is going to be entirely DCEU.
How much does it suck where like the kind of the tagline and the big thematic crux of Days of Future Past with Xavier soul searching and trying to find his confidence again is we need you to hope again, and then Apocalypse happens. Like, oh, okay, so there's nothing to be hopeful about at all then. This franchise sucks again. All right. Lord. Anyway, Austin, what is your number 14?
My number 14 is Mystery Men.
God, that's high. I do not get your adoration for Mystery Men. Like, it's fun, it's fine. I don't understand that.
I don't know if a week goes by without me thinking of Mystery Men, and I don't know why. It's like
Wow.
burned into my brain. Like I think about that movie a lot.
You had a religious experience with that, and that
I
was
did have a religious experience with that
our
movie.
Rewind commentary was your first time seeing that,
Yes.
I
Yes, it
believe.
was. Yep. And I don't even know what I gave that, but like I feel like I would go higher now just because like it's really stuck with me where I'm like that's become one of my favorite superhero films. Um but yeah, I mean you can go back to that rewind where we talked about it more, but I don't know, it's really good. Like I kind of adore everything about that movie.
I guess being that high, I've got to assume. Well, I mean, I don't know what else is on your list, but I guess I got to assume that you're calling that the best superhero parody film,
Uh
or it's way up there.
unless you include like satire, I guess, but like
Okay, sure.
kind of, yeah. Um, yeah, pretty much. No, I really like it for that. I think it's a great parody of that like Schumacher era, especially visually. I think that's clearly what it's going for. Uh, I also have like I don't know if I've ever had this with anything else where you're like you hear something that you associate with like a movie really hard. Like it's just every time you hear it, you're like, oh, this movie. And then you see another movie and it like completely rewrites your DNA with it, which is what I have with All Star, where I no longer associate that with Shrek, which is like insane in my brain. So that is like the Shrek song, and I know it was made for Mystery Men, but like I don't know, I'm the age that I am. I grew up with Shrek. I guess the only other thing I had that with was Freebird with Kingsman, but
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. It's kind of a perfect movie for me. Like it's great.
It's fun enough. Did it even make my list? I don't think it did.
I think it did, but like
It
really
was really low. Guess I'll
like
double
90,
check. It's like, I
99.
mean, I got to come up with 100. I don't see it.
I thought I remembered you bringing it up, but I could be wrong.
Not like it did.
What's my number 15?
And I mean, it's a good movie. I'm not giving you crap for it being on your list. But yeah, 15's cool. I mean, crazy. It's
Don't worry, there is still another big thing on my list that you're going to be like, how?
how
I still have one curveball to throw at you.
I like all the bowling in that movie.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
My 14 is the original Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. Nice. So our 14s are like kind of similar.
In that they're both superhero comedies, or in that
Like both like
you're just
teen
surprised it's
superhero
that
comedies
high,
of
or...
losers coming together, like
Oh, sure.
that kind of a thing.
Yeah, no, that's right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I've always had, I mean, I've talked about this to death, but like I've always had so much respect for uh, the way Gunn and Marvel pulled that together, and how a like really obscure superhero property that I wouldn't have thought anybody would ever care about became a whole generation Star Wars, and how like relatively light and wholesome and family friendly that feels, with being kind of a gang of anti-heroes that are willing to kill people. Like, that works way better than it has any right to. And then right after that, we just kept making really bad anti-hero superhero movies, pretending like they were the first ones to do it. It's like, and I'm not saying even Guardians was the first one to do it, but like Guardians does that so well. And like true, and I mean, they become more heroic as time goes on, but like true anti-heroes as opposed to villains that ought to have been villains but were relegated to anti, like, that's an anti-hero team in the first place. Like, that's what it's supposed to be. And just a real eclectic assortment of characters that shouldn't really work in the mainstream, but then you see all the ingredients put together and you go, yeah, I get why that ultimately worked, but like, it feels like it shouldn't. And that's another movie that was just real personal to me because of the kind of like mother-son story with the tape and everything. I had a real this is just a me thing. I had a real personal thing with that in my own mother. It was nice to get such a good installment for the first big cosmic MCU thing, because I've always really liked the cosmic side of Marvel. Mm-hmm. And I was so bummed out that at that point, and this is surreal now because we're finally getting Galactus this year, that we didn't have FF, we didn't have Galactus, we didn't have Silver Surfer, and their first foray into that stuff was through the lens of like a small band of characters without a lot of resources, but it felt pretty grand and epic, and just its blend of comedy and drama is just really impressive. And everything I like about the sequels, or most everything I like about the sequels, is there with the first movie in the first place, which is a lot of why it stays at the top for me, and it's still my favorite of those.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the Guardians trilogy is probably like the best FF not FF thing. Like,
oh sure,
Fantastic Four kind of gets split between Avengers and Guardians, but the Guardians has more of that cosmic adventure family thing.
That's an excellent point.
That, and like they're taking a lot from FF. Like all three of those movies have some sort of FF villain. Or I mean, I guess Ego starts as Thor, but like they're taking a lot from Burns' Fantastic Four with him.
Like, plus, up to that point, I think that's the best looking MCU movie. At least it was for me in the theater. Like, that was you mentioned that that Homecoming was one of your best theatrical experiences. I absolutely had that with Guardians.
Yeah, so did I. Especially because it was something where I was like, I have no idea what to expect for this. Like, I remember one of the first times I saw anything from that movie, I was in England, and I went into a Subway, and they had like full cardboard cutouts of the Guardians, and I was like, what the hell is this? Like, this is going to be such a weird movie.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I was with my mom, and I was like, we're going to go see that, right? Like, it's a Marvel movie, and she was like, talking raccoon, I don't want to see that. It's stupid.
And then he became one of the most iconic characters in the MCU.
Yeah, and made her cry in the third movie.
What I was going to say, I think just from a storytelling quality perspective, 3 probably beats out 1 for me now, just like as objective as I can be. But nothing's ever going to top that first movie.
I mean, yeah, you have more of a personal connection to it, too.
Yeah. And it's interesting, right, that, like, I've got that deep personal connection with both that and Days of Future Past. They came out the same year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is true.
I didn't even think about that when I put them right next to each other like that. And then I guess Winter Soldier was also that year. That's a wild,
it's a banger year.
Except,
then you have Amazing too. But
yeah, sure. It's not like they were all good, but I had these just really important, definitive, for me anyway, superhero movies. And Winter Soldier, I didn't have that religious experience the first time I saw it. Like, that's, and I've always said this, obviously we haven't gotten to it yet, that's my favorite MCU movie, always has, or it has been for a long time, but it took me a couple viewings in the theater before it really clicked for me, and I realized just how brilliant I think it is now.
Yeah, for sure.
But we'll get there. What is your 13, Austin? Actually, remind me where the first Guardians was on your list. Because I know you had maybe 2 and 3 both above it.
The first one is at 26, and I have not hit either sequel yet.
Oh, you still haven't hit either of those yet? Okay. I don't know why I thought you'd hit one of them, maybe. But obviously, you're a huge fan of those, so it makes a lot of sense that we haven't gotten there yet. Hey, I'm sorry. Before you read your next one, we've got a super chat, and I forgot to read it.
No
Joel
worries.
Davis, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Do you find it fascinating that comic book movies are made the same way comic books are, with soft reboot, crisis, shared universe, assigned ones, etc.? I think it's inevitable if you let it go on too long and you don't have I was gonna say quality control, but more than that, like new blood coming in to refresh stuff, and the right new blood, because you've got both problems with the MCU, where you've got people sticking around too long, and you've got new people coming in to replace. I'm talking about creators, old people who just don't know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. No, MCU has finally hit a point where we have filler issues.
I think it's inevitable, and I think it's also a crutch. I think it's one of the few things that both companies have looked at and have gone, well, we've got this technique to fall back on that we got from the comics, and because they're based on comics, we can always get away with doing something like a Crisis, some kind of soft reboot thing. That's also not just unique to those, like, you know, like I said earlier, Star Trek did it, and that's a very comic booky thing to do. Arguably, that whole idea kind of starts in that medium. But yeah, it's not at all surprising to me that we got to that. It is maybe surprising to me how often we've already done it now.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll probably continue to do it over the next 10 years.
Yeah, like, when the MCU got big, I was really wanting to see an attempt at incorporating more comic book story structure into the movies, and this is not exactly what I had in mind.
Yeah.
You know, and now we're in a place with MCU where I'm kind of begging for the reboot, but I've said this recently in the Captain Logan show, I don't want it at this point to be a soft reboot, where, like, we keep some things, and, you know, I really don't want to see it, like, New 52'd. I just want a clean slate reboot at this point, which I feel bad saying. Like, it's kind of sad, because I used to be so invested in this stuff, and I'm in the same place with it that I was DCU, and there are pockets, like, there's stuff that more recently I have liked in, like, singular projects and stuff, but I'm not invested in the universe anymore. So when I look at Fantastic Four, and I'm like, oh boy, an MCU movie I'm excited for, why am I excited for it? Does that have anything to do with the MCU? No. Like, I'm excited for it because it looks completely standalone and apart from that, and, like, it's this stylistic thing and set in another time.
And then you have this big guillotine Downey Doom hanging over it.
Yeah, and female Silver Surfer.
Just know it's coming.
And, like, that stuff might be cool, but it's counterintuitive, so at the very least I'm going to be distracted by it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
But I would say over the last, like, 2 months, I've, like, fully gotten on the, like, I need a reboot at this point.
Yeah.
Just the more, because before that I was like, you know what, like, I need a soft reboot. Like, I just need the things that I like that are gone to, like, be brought back in. But at this point I'm like, okay, but with what we have, there's, like, one character I care about at this point. Like, I'm fine with wiping it away.
Yeah, the two big things that got me to that place, Austin, one's positive and one's negative. Seeing the Fantastic Four trailer made me go, why can't this just be the start of a new universe? Mm-hmm. And then the second thing, the negative thing, was seeing Brave New World in the theater, where I was like, yeah, I really, like all of this really does feel over to me. Mm-hmm. And at the point, I know you haven't seen that yet, Austin, at the point where the new, whatever his name is, because I didn't like him in Falcon and Winter Soldier, and I didn't like him in that movie. He didn't even come up in our 2-hour
New Falcon?
Super Chat. Yeah, New Falcon. At the point
New
where
Falcon or Black Widow came up.
Yeah, neither of them came up in that. That's how memorable those characters were. Somebody was like, hey, did the new Black Widow come up? I was like, yeah, and I have nothing to say about her. But you get to... And like the only thing I'm hearing anybody say about that character is like controversy about Israel and Palestine. Like, that's it. That's all that anyone's talking about with that character.
Well, you know, they pulled a name out of a hat and it bit them in the ass.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they shouldn't have done that. But anyway, so you get to the end of that movie, and minor spoilers. Who could possibly care? Sam is like congratulations, you're going to get to be a member of the new Avengers. And I'm like, at the point where that guy is on an Avengers team, you're done.
Well,
sorry, you're done. Who could possibly care?
Shang-Chi did set up Aquafina with a bow to be one of the Avengers. Like, what are we doing?
Well, what's really funny is they have no idea what that team's going to be. And maybe they do at this point, because they have to go into production on Doomsday not too long from now. But
I think they're building sets already.
I kind of don't think Doomsday is even really going to be an Avengers movie, even though it's going to have Avengers in the title. I don't know what you think about that, Austin. But
I mean, I have that with Infinity War. Like, I 100% don't think that will be an Avengers film.
Yeah, it's probably gonna ultimately make a big declaration at the end of this is the Avengers team now. But I doubt if you'll be able to. We'll get back to the list in a minute. I doubt if you'll be able to go back to. Now it's just the Captain Logan show. Whatever.
Now we're just talking about things we hate.
You know what I hate? So, I doubt if you're going to be able to go back to the proclamations made in various Phase 4 and 5 movies of this is going to probably be an Avenger, and this is that team is going to either be 18 people, only 3 of which anyone will remotely sort of at all care about, or it's going to be a smaller team with, again, probably 2 or 3 people that anybody could possibly at all care about, and then and then that's it, right? Are they going to bring all of those characters back? Really?
And then we'll get rid of them, and then Secret Wars will have all the classic characters.
Yeah. And my worry is the few that I actually think have a shot at making a cool team dynamic, they're either going to not do anything with or not bring back. I'm scared to death they'll just forget about Kate Bishop, even though they made a big deal out of her at the end of the Marvels. Because guess what? 5 people liked that movie, and I was one of them.
I mean,
I didn't love it, okay? But I liked it enough to put it in my top 100, and I didn't even include Mystery Men.
Oh. That was a shot right to the heart.
Whatever, you made me listen to you ramble on about all 4 of these, okay? So...
I know, they're beautiful films. If you want to hear me ramble on more about them...
Yeah.
On the last video.
That's true, because we just did a Toxic Avenger commentary.
No, aren't you excited to see all these new characters interact with legacy characters, like new Falcon meeting Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider? Isn't that a dynamic you're incredibly excited to learn more about?
Okay, what the hell is your 13, man?
My 13.
Just what is it? Can we move on? And I hope it's not MCU. I don't even want to think about the MCU right now.
It's not. It is a thing that you like more than the MCU. My 13 is Batman, Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah! That's exciting that it's that high. Well, you and I can be friends again, because that movie's damn good.
It is damn good, and I know you just rewatched it recently. You sent me a message over the weekend.
No, I wasn't actively watching it, but I put it on for the kids, and I just looked at the first couple minutes of it, and I was like, wow, that transfer is pretty.
Yeah, the Blu-ray transfer is beautiful. I'm so glad that came with that box set. I mean, yeah, in a lot of ways, I think it is the best Batman film. It's so good.
Even still, isn't it weird that it... Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that movie ad nauseum.
Exactly.
And you and I have even done a commentary on that, even though it was before the commentary project. But we did
it when Conroy passed.
Yeah, that was our tribute to Conroy. And we spent most of the time just talking about him and his career. Mm-hmm. So we'll still get to hear you say some things you didn't get to say in that commentary when we finally do it for the commentary project, since we had kind of an angle on it. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting that was the closest thing to, traditional, honest-to-God detective Batman on the big screen, all the way until the Batman.
Yeah.
No, and yes, absolutely. There's little detective elements in some of the movies, but World's Greatest Detective, none of those guys were, right?
No, there's seeds of it in other movies, but that's kind of it.
And to be fair, the Batman has that has that Casino Royale thing where like he's not really the Batman we know yet. That's kind of the point, right? So
Mhm.
like he's trying to be the world's greatest detective. He actually fails
Mhm.
in that movie.
Yeah.
That's part of the point of it. But I'm gonna assume when we get a sequel, it's gonna feel more like that. Although it'll take place like weeks after that, so he's still not gonna be 100% there yet. I don't know if this Batman is gonna get a chance to get to where I want to eventually see him go. Because if all his movies take place in like a month, but they take 15 years to make them,
It'll
it's
be
gonna be
the
absurd.
Guardians trilogy thing, where Guardians 2 takes place 6 months after the first one, and then Guardians 3 takes place like 12 years.
We're gonna retroactively wish the Batman was animated.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, not really, but you know what I mean. Because
Mhm.
they could have gotten them out quicker than every 5 years. Say one or two other things about Phantasm.
Yeah, I think Phantasm has maybe the best Batman scene of all time, like on film, which is the scene, and I've mentioned this in a few videos, so you probably heard me mention this before, but it's the scene where Bruce is at his parents' grave and he's like actively losing an argument with it. That is that is like the operatic side that Batman needs that I think we kind of got away from on film uh, in like the 2000s, and it's like everything that I think needs to be in that character. Like
Yeah, and
that's
that's the
such.
part that Tim Burton really doesn't get about that character, right?
Mhm.
And like isn't as interested in with that character, and it's still like really tragic and gothic and all of that.
Mhm.
But that's ironically the thing that makes him most human.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just I don't know, it's just perfect.
Yeah, hearing Batman lament, "I need it to be different now." God, that's
Mhm.
such a good line.
Yeah,
Also, superficially, can I just say Phantasm is one of the coolest designs of anything ever?
yeah. I mean, it is great.
I was obsessed with the look of that character when I was a kid.
Anything that has some sort of hook hand or sword hand or claw hand is inherently cool.
Yeah, well, and it also just feels real pulpy, right? Like that
Yeah.
series being it was cool to see an original design like that that was uh, that was so to the core of their philosophy on what that world should look like, right? Where it feels like something out of like a scary 1930s horror movie or something.
Mhm. No, exactly. That and obviously you have like the City of Tomorrow type thing.
Yeah.
It's like in ruins, and Joker runs around with the Thunderball jetpack. It's, it's so good. We get so much like homage to like old school cinema between stuff like that. Everything you were just saying, and there's also like kind of like a giant monster thing with Batman and Joker like over the miniature city fighting each other,
Yeah,
and
that's
like
a
you
lot
have
of
like a
fun.
King Kong thing with like the planes coming in. It's it's so good.
It actually kind of does something decent with the Jack Napier thing if you have to have that.
Mm. No, every movie that has the Joker has to have a scene where Batman draws a smiley face on Joker picture. That should be a rule.
And then I guess I've talked about this before too, but I've just always appreciated. I'll just say everything I have to say about this movie, so that when I get to it, I'll just be like, yeah, I said that. But I I I've always especially as a kid really appreciated like filling in the origin stuff. Like it's
Mhm.
the closest you get to Batman Begins before Batman Begins, but it's like everything after he's done his 10 years of traveling. So there was still that gap to deal with in Begins, even though we're dealing with different continuities.
Mhm.
So that was always really cool.
Just
And
that first time getting that like year one stuff in it.
yeah, just so smart to give him a definitive love interest that he should have gone with.
Mm.
Uh, that that then tells him why he can't have a personal life. But it's a choice he's making. Like he absolutely could.
Hmm.
It's really heartbreaking. And they made a character that I liked and bought that he would be with, and that like matches him.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I've also
We
never
would.
really thought about this, but it's fun that she. Sorry, it's fun that she becomes the villain like that, because that means that she is physically capable enough that if he had tried to have his cake and eat it too and stay with her and be Batman, she could have been a sidekick.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean that's true. We would be in such a better place in the West with animation if Phantasm did really well at the box office, and
Yeah,
Scooby-Doo Zombie Island got a theatrical release and did well. Just those two movies by WB, like right at the same time. If those both did that well
that's such a
at
good
the
point
box
too.
office.
Yeah, because it's like really good, challenging animation that's not just for children.
And taking something like kind of seen as for children and building on them, especially with Batman, even better than the movies were.
And making a ridiculously cinematic experience out of it.
Mhm.
Because I've talked about this before too, but I finally saw that in the theater a few years ago, and I've gone and seen a lot of old movies in the theater, done the retro thing, and it's the only time that I kind of felt like I was watching a different movie. And it's ironic because that movie was originally being developed as direct to video, and then at the 11th hour they decided to put it in the theater, and they had to retool some things, and it feels like it's meant to, like once I finally saw it in the theater, I was like, oh, this is the only way to watch this. Like you've got to see a giant, and
Mhm.
most people never got to. And I took Brandon, and he'd never seen that movie, and he had an experience with it. He's not even really a Batman guy. We left the theater. He was like, "Holy crap! Like, how have I never seen that?" I was like, "I know. Like, it's one of the best movies ever made in any genre."
Yeah, no, it's wonderful. But what is your number 13?
Who cares? I just want to keep talking about Phantasm. My number 13 is The Mask.
Okay, so we both have mask things in our 13.
That's true.
We're lining up twice now.
Years and years ago, when I wrote the Rewind, the script, the Rewind for The Mask, I've always loved that movie. When I was growing up, like a lot of kids from my era, all the cartoony stuff was just fun, and I was really obsessed with Jim Carrey. So just on a surface level, it was a really entertaining, fun movie. But I really had an experience writing about that, and the the identity themes, and the notion of the masks everybody wears, and the the character who needs to put that on and see the most exaggerated version of the parts of himself that he wishes he could express, but is like too timid and afraid and kind of too nice to do any of that. And so you get like your own personal like Batman and Joker, where you see like the darkest but like also most exciting and fun part of yourself, and you go, okay, I can't be that all the time, but there are like parts of my personality that I'm suppressing that I need to incorporate in myself. And it's just a really solid character arc, but also thematically, like, it really resonated with me as an adult. And I ever since then, I find myself thinking about that movie like quite a bit. But it's also just such a like gigantic technical achievement, and I'm a huge Jim Carrey fan, and it's and of course I always bring this up when I talk about this movie, but it's maybe the best example there is of going completely counter to the source material and making something superior to it.
Yeah, for sure.
Have we hit The Mask on your list?
The mask is not on my list.
Oh, it's just not even on your list.
That's my mystery, man.
I'm surprised by that. Did you just not think of it? Because I thought you liked that movie.
I don't know. So I like that movie well enough. I'm also nervous to go back to it, but
Oh, okay. I still think it holds up fine, but
yeah,
well, we'll have
Yeah.
to eventually.
yeah, exactly. My number 12 is Son of the Mask.
No, it's not. Stop it. If it is, I'm kicking you off.
Yeah, no, it is. No, my. No, sorry. Is there anything else you wanted to say?
No. I kind of knocked it all. I'm a little surprised that's not on your list. Like, not to give you a crap or anything, but
Yeah, I don't know. It's also not like a movie like I really like watched a lot. Like I'd watch like here and there. I was like, I like this movie. But...
yeah, like I have to admit that some of that is probably my age, right? Like that was such a gigantic movie.
I mean, it was definitely from my generation too, but I'm also not a big Jim Carrey person. I've also soured on him more as I've gotten older, which is why I'm.
Oh, I forgot about that with you. Yeah,
which is part of why I'm nervous to go back to it. But...
I always have a hard time remembering which of my friends likes Jim Carrey.
And you should have a chart. The Jim Carrey. The Jim Carrey.
Yeah, my wife doesn't get the Jim Carrey thing at all. And like last week, Mikey was begging to watch The Mask, and my wife just right in front of him was like, "Why?" Which I thought was really funny.
That's badass.
And I was like, I mean, Sarah, I'm going to put it on for him. And she's like, okay, fine, but why? Like, she knows I like that movie. I don't know why she's got to be like that. Anyway, what is your 12?
My number 12 is Transformers the movie, the greatest 86 film of all time.
And like I said, if it had occurred to me that counts at all, it would have been on my list.
Yeah, fair enough. It wouldn't have been as high as mine, but
no, not at all. I mean, it would have been toward the bottom. I mean, I like that movie fine.
Yeah, no, of course.
But Transformers 1 would have been quite a bit higher.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's fair.
And that's not like the visual achievement that 86 is, but anyway. Sorry.
Yeah.
I just want to talk about that movie all the time. It's great.
No, it's okay. No, Transformers the movie is kind of the best thing in Transformers. It's awesome. That's basically all there is to it. It's just watch it. It's one of those movies where it's the greatest movie of all time while you're watching it. It isn't technically, but when you're watching it, it is.
It's a hard movie to describe, especially to somebody that hasn't seen it. Like,
well, it's funny, yeah, because it's like
it's basically war epic in space against
it's
robots.
The original Star Wars, but also like we need to clear out the toy aisle for the next line of toys, so everybody has to die.
But it's also like wildly epic in that you've got this big cosmic side to it, where it also feels sort of like a God versus the Devil story, like all at the same time.
No, and you have just the best on-screen Galactus.
Yeah,
he's perfect
so far.
And
I hope that changes this year. But
yeah, hopefully. You have the most ridiculously 80s soundtrack of all time, and it's awesome. I wanted to announce it by doing the like doing the theme.
Transformers!
That
is one of the
you
greatest
go into
soundtracks
the
of all
O
time.
on the movie. It's fantastic.
I will admit to occasionally blasting that in the house because I think it's funny.
Oh yeah, I blast that soundtrack all the time. I tend to skip Dare to Be Stupid because I feel like it's weird to listen to that together. It doesn't fit.
That's true. That's true.
But
for anybody that happens to have come in late with these, Austin's got some Transformers and G.I. Joe things on his list because they're connected enough to superhero stuff being in Marvel comics and things. And I did not think to do that, so I don't have any of that stuff on my list, but.
Well, that movie straight up has the Marvel logo over it.
Sure.
Even. Yeah.
And I will say, if I had, there's only a couple of things that would have made it. You know what I mean? Like,
no, of course.
86 and retroactively Transformers 1, but we made this list before that came out, so.
No, of course.
And I've never seen a G.I. Joe movie, so. I couldn't do that either.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not sure how much you would like them, but they're okay. They're enough to be at the bottom of my list.
So, my number 12. Everybody's been waiting for it. This is
my God, we're finally at Iron Man 2.
This is where it actually landed. It's Mostly nostalgia. There is story stuff I still appreciate. There is still performance stuff I appreciate. I get why Austin doesn't like it, but I had to be brutally honest. Batman Forever is still that high on my list.
That's fair. You have Jim Carrey back to back.
Yeah, which I didn't do on purpose. I don't think.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually a little surprised you put The Mask under Forever.
And a year apart. Yeah, it's because it even over The Mask is too big of a formative thing for my childhood, I guess.
No, I get it.
That was a big summer. I don't know, that's superficial, but it's a favorites list. And I also, especially with the top movies, found myself ranking these mostly about how often I rewatch them. And I know I said that's a big factor with all of this, but especially the higher ones. I can't even explain it, Austin. Batman Forever is probably next to 89, the superhero movie that I go back to the most often. And my kids love it, so that's another reason I end up putting it on a lot. But it's it's really good background. Because admittedly, that ain't a deep story or anything.
Have I ever told you my thing with Batman Forever, as a kid?
What about it?
My mom was like, all of the old Batman movies are good, except for that one with the Riddler. So
yes, you have told me that.
You can't watch that. So, I didn't watch that movie till I was, 13. And then when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is, the best one. It's so good because it's the one I couldn't have. So it's you have that mentality with it, where it's oh, it's the, the special one. And then as I got older, I was like, wait a minute. No, I kind of agree with her.
Which is hilarious because it's really funny that she says the one with the Riddler, because the Riddler's not even the problem in that movie. It's Two-Face.
That's both of them.
It's because Two-Face is just trying to be the Riddler, even though the actor hates the guy he's trying to be. It's so weird.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that sucks about Forever is I think Kilmer's genuinely a really good Batman. Highly underrated. So for me, when I watch it, it's I really like this aspect, but it's so pushed off to the side, and so much of his good stuff was cut.
And he doesn't get to play with the pathos of it enough. When we're finally trying to get in Batman's head a little bit.
Yeah, so I find when I'm watching it, I'm oh, I'm really zoned in on this. I want to watch this, but the movie keeps going. Here's two jackasses mucking at each other.
Yeah,
and I'm
that's fair.
Go back to that. Because I think that stuff's genuinely.
But there's the child inside of me that was entertained by that.
No, of course, and I don't mean to shut you down on it.
No, I know.
Because no, I get it. I mean, I have that with Batman and Robin to a degree.
And I had that giant Jim Carrey phase.
Yeah.
Where it was such a big deal to me that he was in a Batman movie and playing my favorite villain. Mm-hmm. Also, and his plot is stupid.
It gave us the dog on the box, though, so I can be happy.
That's the dog on the box. All you have to do is actually let him get smarter over the course of the movie, and it works. But he's sucking out the intellect of all these people, and he's just exactly the same all the way through the movie. I don't understand that. How is his part of that movie not just an adaptation of Flowers for Algernon? That's what it should have been. But it's not.
I mean, he's so stupid by the end. He does the sadistic choice with two tubes that are going to fall down. But they connect after a certain point so he can grab both of them.
That's true.
If they just didn't connect.
No, it's got all kinds of legit problems. It's kind of the same thing, but to a lesser degree, that I've got with 89, where I see all the issues. It's still a thing I just like to watch. That movie, even more than 89, though, it's more of a theme park ride for me than a movie, I guess. I guess that's what it kind of boils down to. But I like the Batman arc on paper, where you get him past his demons enough that when you get to the end of the movie, he could maybe quit, but just decides not to. It's not a bad idea. It does make it hard to tell what you do moving forward, and obviously we got Batman and Robin, and we saw what that looked like, but if you're gonna do that, that's probably the last Batman movie you should make in that franchise without rebooting, or like and then reboot, right? Because there's not really anywhere to go from there. Because then it's like, well, Batman's not a dark character anymore. You know, like it's a good end for a movie. I don't care what happens after that.
Hmm. At least we got a new villain in town after that.
Okay, let's do. Will this be 5?
Yes, this one will be the 5th one.
Let's do one more then, and then we'll call it.
Yeah, and then we'll have the top 10 moving forward. So that's a nice clean break.
And maybe we can try to do a special longer one where we just go ahead and do the last 10.
Yeah, we can try
or
that.
We'll do it in 2. We'll see what happens. But...
yeah, we're crazy. You never know what we're gonna do. My number 11. I'm just assuming this is your 11.
This
apparently.
must also be my 11. We were so close with mask names.
Yeah, we had mask names. We had loser teams.
What was your 12 again?
Transformers. That's what.
Okay, that has jack for anything to do with Batman Forever. So
yeah, there's no dog on the box. My number 11 is the last and best, or not like the last chronologically, but the last on my list of Sam Raimi films, and the best one for me, which is Darkman.
Yeah, that's also a movie you saw relatively late.
Yes.
Right? Didn't I talk that up to you for years and you finally saw it?
Yes.
It's
and
great.
I remember...
I had it a lot lower than you, but that's much more your sensibilities.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I remember messaging you and being like, is Bruce Campbell in this? And you're like, I can't tell you that. And I'm like, okay, like, I guess he's not. Like, there's only like 3 minutes left of this movie. I guess it's not.
You spent the whole time going, well, he's got to be in here if Cappy has to be in here
somewhere. Way. Yeah. And then it was the greatest thing of all time.
Yeah, I knew you'd appreciate that.
Yeah, no, Darkman, I think, is like kind of the perfect Raimi superhero film where it's like right, like smack dab in the middle of like him doing the Evil Dead stuff, and like the sensibilities really work with that. And Darkman himself is just really cool. Like I really love the whole. He's almost like 3D printing faces that he can wear for disguises.
Yeah.
Like there was a rumor recently for the Batman that's going to be their take for Clayface as like a Darkman thing, and that would be like the greatest thing ever.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. No, just everything about it, like it's such a good balance of like old Universal horror and.
I feel like if you do that with Clayface, you almost can't call him Clayface anymore.
Yeah. Well, they're made out of clay.
That way he should just be False Face. But they're never going to do that.
He'll be called False Clay.
What does that even mean?
His clay is false.
It's Play-Doh. It's brand Play-Doh.
Yeah, exactly. It's edible.
I've always been nervous about the Darkman sequels. I've never seen them.
I am also very nervous about the Darkman sequels, and I don't think Raimi has any involvement in those.
He doesn't. I don't think. And that's another thing, kind of like Toxic Avenger, that I've avoided forever. Cause like, and like the Crow sequels, I've now finally seen, as of a couple years ago, City of Angels, but I've never seen the direct-to-video nonsense.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what the worst part too is that
maybe that actually also was direct-to-video. I can't remember, but I think it was supposed to be theatrical, even if it wasn't. Whatever, it's not important. Go ahead.
Yeah, is the third movie has genuinely like a great title, "Die Darkman Die." And I don't trust that it'll be good. It'll live up to that.
And you shouldn't, because there's not a person on the planet that seems to like that. So
yeah, no, exactly. There's been talk recently about Raimi coming back and doing another Darkman movie. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, but
yeah,
it would be cool if he did that. I am glad that he's making something new. He's doing his next film's an original movie.
That's great. I think Darkman would make a pretty good TV show.
Darkman would make a good TV show.
Like, if you brought that back, that'd be the way I'd want to see it.
I think RoboCop would have as well, except we did it as like a crappy Canadian show.
Well, we did a couple of them. RoboCop's been made into at least 2 TV shows.
Has it? Oh, because I guess the animated show...
No, it's been made into 2 live-action shows.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
I did not know that.
That not too far apart from each other, I don't think. Yeah, it's weird. We should blind watch some of that at some point.
There's no way that's good.
Oh, I didn't know that. If it's true, Dan's Den says there was actually a failed Darkman pilot.
Oh, okay, fascinating.
Never heard that. When you say failed, was it ever leaked or released? Or did it just get made and it's never seen the light of day? Because I would love to get my hands on that.
You know what? There is like probably a really cool Darkman premise where it's almost like a Incredible Hulk or a Highway to Heaven thing, but like darker, obviously. But like he like gets involved in someone else's story every episode, and he's like always on the move. There's probably like a cool idea there.
Sure, yeah, no, that's good. That's a good call. You do sort of an anthology thing with it.
Yeah, exactly. Just like episodic.
Just get an episodic premise. Yeah,
you just always, on the run.
Yeah, there's a quantum leap premise there.
Yeah, exactly.
Although I will also say, if Raimi did ever come back and do that, I could see him wanting to just do like a modern remake of it. But that's one of those few characters that I can totally see Liam Neeson at his age coming back and playing and doing really well.
It makes more sense than what he's doing this year with the Naked Gun remake.
What?
Yeah, they're remaking the Naked Gun this year with Liam Neeson.
With Liam Neeson?
Yeah, which I can kind of understand in that Leslie Nielsen wasn't a comedy actor. Like, he was a dramatic actor that works in comedy because he delivers it like a dramatic actor. So
sure.
Maybe, but I also can't see Liam Neeson in that role.
You also gotta wonder if they cast him just because their names sound sort of similar.
Yeah, exactly. Just L. Neeson, yeah.
Dan's Den says it was unaired, but you can find it online. Wow.
Fascinating. Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
I've never heard about this. So somebody had the same thought I did and actually almost got it made. Mm-hmm. Like, it sounds like a TV premise. Crazy.
And Robert also mentions that Bruce Campbell also ADRs a lot of characters in that. I think he also does some ADR for Darkman. He just specifically mentions Henchman, but I think he does some ADR for Darkman as well.
I remember reading that in research way back when I did that movie, but and I'm excited to do a commentary on that because I don't think I've ever done a commentary on that movie.
Yeah, I don't think you have.
We have so much work ahead of us, dude.
But also, if they came back and they did a Darkman show now with like the same amount of quality they did with the Evil Dead show, I think it could still genuinely be really cool.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I wonder what year that was. Did you have anything else to say specifically about the actual movie?
But the actual movie? Not especially. It's great. Go watch it. It has one of the greatest freakouts of all time.
It does. It's nuts. Yeah, there's some fun B-movie-ish stuff in that, but it's definitely elevated well above that.
Yeah, and it will also blow your mind if you've never seen it and are very familiar with his Spider-Man, when the DNA shot from when Peter gets his powers is just in Darkman.
And also, if you've never seen it and you're very familiar with 89, you'll be shocked by the fact that it's the same score.
Well, it's weird. It's even weirder than that, because when I watched it, I was like, it's very 89, but it's almost like a marriage between that and his Spider-Man. Like, there is some Spider-Man in it, too.
There's parts of it, but a lot of it is just...
It is a lot 89,
Exactly 89, almost, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
Oh, you're okay. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, and I mean, Raimi's just cool, because he's now done a superhero film in 3 different eras, and he like bleeds into it, where it's like he's never, I mean, I guess, with the 2000s, like, he's kind of pushing it forward, but like all 3 of them, with his Spider-Man, his Darkman, and his Doctor Strange, are all just, they feel like that period.
That's
even
true.
though they're all very Raimi,
and they're all arguably kind of different genres or subgenres, or however you want to look at it, and all scored by Elfman.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
Did he even get Elfman for Strange? I think he did.
He did, yeah, because Elfman's score, I remember being pretty good in that.
Yeah, we talked about that in the commentary, but I've slept since then. I remember liking that fine. I think there's some cool earwormy things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last movie for tonight. My number 11. It feels almost blasphemy that this didn't crack my top 10. But it's another movie that's dropped a little bit over the years the more I've thought about it, and there have been more movies since then. But my 11 is Richard Donner's Superman.
Oh, wow, okay.
I know, kind of low, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't say anything, but sure.
Austin just spinning the world backwards, man. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't pass the smell test. And like I used to think it was a perfect movie, and I don't think I'd give it a 4 now. Like I think it's actually at like a 3.5 now, just because of that.
Yeah, I mean that's fair.
Because it's just it's frustrating, and I don't just mean it's silly. You know, everybody likes to laugh and complain and debate about whether like he's actually spinning the world backwards or if that's just a visual way for us to see that he's going back in time. That's not my point. My point is like whatever is actually happening with that. It's that we're harping. I'm just immediately going to negative things. We're harping really. I'm just explaining why it's this low.
So, I mean, it is 11. That is pretty high.
It's pretty high, I know. We're harping so hard. Yeah, but I mean, you know, one of the like definitive quintessential, and you wouldn't have this whole genre without it, right? But you know, like Christopher Reeve is brilliant, and the you know romantic chemistry and blah blah blah. We all know why Superman the movie is great, but. You'll believe I mean, I Can Fly. Yes, we did. It's wonderful. The suit's awesome. Yeah, we get it. It's great. But 3-act epic, old Hollywood, we get it. We know why it's wonderful.
We get it, Donner. You're dead. We don't care. Get out of here. You're 11. You're irrelevant.
You're 11. We're gonna move on.
You're irrelevant. You're done.
And you're lucky you got that high.
I guess I'll throw out my number 10 is Superman the movie. That way we don't have to talk about it at the beginning of the next one. You don't have to do your number 10, but since it's my next one, I might as well just throw it while we're talking about it. But
so it did crack yours.
It did crack mine, but like just.
Yeah. So we had them real close to each other. That's interesting.
And it's been like going back and forth where I'm like, is it going to be in my top 10? I would say everything from
and I didn't cheat, man. I moved nothing this whole time.
Everything I would say from my 10 to 13 has been in my top 10 at some point. And I've like passed it around. Like at some point it was Phantasm. Transformers was my number 10 for a while. Darkman was my number 10 for a while.
Yeah.
It is hard, but at the end of the day, I had a really good viewing with Superman last time I watched it. So I was like,
sure.
So it's like, okay, like it can crack it. Yeah, and I agree. Like the Earth thing at the end, it doesn't work. And it's kind of unfair because I'm like, I give it more of a pass because it's like one of the first big superhero films, and it takes like a big.
The problem with it is just the lack of consequences. And
I agree.
If only 2 had worked out the way Donner had planned it, 2 would have sort of been the consequence for it, and then it works a lot better. But
yeah.
The problem is Zod is still released from the Phantom Zone regardless of whether he goes back in time. Like, the time travel doesn't really have anything to do with throwing the missile out into space.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, like, that's still not really the consequence of him playing God. Like, when you've got Jor-El warning him that he's not supposed to interfere in the natural course of human events. I mean, essentially it's the prime directive from Star Trek. And then that voice is in his head really ominously as he's, turning the world backwards. And then he saves Lois and then everything's fine at the end. Mm-hmm. It's like, what was even the point of any of that? Like, what I'm being told is this is massive hubris and he's going too far and he can't... And also... it speaks back to the death of his father, his Earth father, Jonathan Kent, he can't save everybody, and there are limits to what he can do, and he has to limit himself some also, or he's just the ruler of the earth, and he's playing God. He kind of just gets to play God at the end.
Mm.
Everything else is wonderful, and it's easy to not even think about that while you're watching it. I mean, it took me a lot of years before I went, oh well, now wait a minute, like that's kind of some massive hubris there, right? Like,
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can throw out like devil's advocate, like, he's Superman, like he always finds a way, like that kind of a thing. But I agree, like I don't think the Earth thing
but if that's the point of it,
works.
then you shouldn't have Jarrell's voice reverberating in his head while he's doing it. Like,
No, I agree, but like,
that makes it really messy. Where it's like, what
yeah.
are we even saying?
Mm. No, I agree. Like I said, I don't think that works. It doesn't drop it off like that hard for me. Like the rest
Well,
of the movie,
it didn't me either. It's 11. But there's a time where it would have been
it's
like
10 for me. So
yeah, there's a time where it would have been like 3 or 4 or 5 for me.
No, of course. I mean, this is also a movie that like I've come to more recently.
Yeah. Well, and then also, once again, I'm just considering movies I put in more often over others.
Mhm.
Where when I was growing up, that was the boring one.
Well, and it's funny because when I watched all, no, I didn't watch 3 at the time. I think I watched 1, 2, and 4. I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't watch 3, but
I never watched 3.
I finally watched it not that long ago. It sucks.
It sucks, man. I mean, it's
Christopher Reeve's really good in it. Like every time we're with him, it's good, but everything outside of that's awful.
no, respective for its franchise. It's like Ninja Turtles 3. It's like, just don't bother.
Yeah.
And it also has the same like lame villain problem Turtles 3 has too. Like, there are actually weird parallels between those movies.
It sucks because I love Evil Superman in that film. He's the best Evil Superman. He like mildly inconveniences people, and that's kind of it.
Well,
But
would you agree with this? Talking
yeah.
about 3 versus 4. 3, not in production, but in the way that movie is written and structured, it's kind of more of a B movie than 4 is. Like, 4 is a B movie in production. 3 is a B movie in story. I mean, Nuclear Man is pretty B movie-ish.
Yeah. I see. I feel like 4 is more like is still more of a B movie plot. Like the whole we got to get rid of the nukes thing, and then you have like Nuclear Man. Yeah. 3, like I don't even know what to compare it to. Like it's such a weird
But like
curveball.
tilting the Eiffel Tower is a real B movie kind of move, and
No, like all
some of
that
the things
stuff,
he
absolutely.
does with Evil Superman.
But it's more so like the rest of the movie's like a Richard Pryor comedy.
Well, yeah,
It's
that's true.
really unfunny. But everything with Superman, yeah, sure. That's definitely. I still think.
That's a thought I had in the moment. I don't know if I'm right about it. It
No,
popped in there.
no, I mean you're not wrong. But I feel like Superman 4 is like watching like a kid sport where they're not good, but like you have fun like watching. You're like, oh, like it's cute. They tried. Look at them go. And
Yeah, like they're really gonna deserve the juice box when they get to the end of the match. Like,
yeah, exactly. They get their orange slices at the end, and you're happy. But 3 is like you're at a kid's sporting game, or like a baseball game, and they hit the ball over the fence and it hits you in the head because you weren't looking. Like it sucks. But yeah, Superman the movie is great.
yeah, and boy does that hold up visually, man.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna say with that is I like 2 over 1 when I first watched them. When I rewatched them, I was like, oh my god, like 1 is so much better. Like, I
One
like
is
2, but
objectively a better movie than 2.
yeah.
You notice I haven't said 2 yet. Like,
I actually didn't realize you hadn't.
I
Said
haven't said it yet. This is all about like fun, subjective. Like, I can't.
But
get
like I
enough
said-
Sod, man. Like,
But like I said, Cap, like I liked 2 more the first time. On a rewatch, one just hit me more, and I was in like a rough spot too. So I was like, dealing with like family tragedy and stuff, and I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
it's like came to me at like the right time. Like,
No,
this
it's
was the
it's
right
a
time to watch
it's a more
this.
emotionally impactful movie, and I think the
Yeah,
second movie, especially under Lester, is a more
it's a more fun movie,
well.
absolutely.
But what I was going to say is, as far as the emotional stuff goes, it's actually more manipulative
Yeah.
because Clark giving up his powers for Lois thing isn't great.
Hmm. Yeah, you got the kiss at the end.
Yeah, there's that too, which is dumber than turning the world backwards, and is also the kind of Deus Ex Machina that is.
Hmm.
And then people like to lob the whole you don't know what that's gonna do to her. Like, is it you gonna lobotomize her? You don't know.
Well, I like the whole like he should have just kissed Lex. Then he wouldn't remember who he is.
Well, and that's the ultimate Lester just throwing in powers moment. Is like, how the hell would you even know you could do that?
The weirdest one. So that is, but I think the weirdest one for me when I
Like, does that
watched
mean
it.
Zod could have done that?
Yeah.
But the whole movie, Zod had that power. Did he know he could do that? Why doesn't he just like wipe people's memories just to confuse them? Like, why did he do that to the president? He should have just done that to the president. I
That
see
is
you were
beautiful.
practiced in worshiping things that fly, but now you're a vegetable, so who cares?
I see you're practiced at kissing me, Mr. President. uh, no, that's beautiful. No, the weirdest power thing for me is when they fight in the Fortress of Solitude and they start teleporting. They're just like boop boop boop. Boop.
Well, see,
Like,
that's
what's happening?
that's not a power thing. That is apparent. Now, you don't know this watching the movie, but apparently that's supposed to be I think like a programmed fortress thing.
Okay. It plays so weird in the movie where it's like, what is
I
happening
know I have
now?
no idea what's going on. Well, the problem is you can't trust anything Lester's doing because he's already randomly thrown powers at the Kryptonians that they didn't have in the first movie and that they traditionally have never had in comics. So when he's doing like the telekinesis beams, like what the hell is that? Like Superman never had that. And then you get into the fortress and he throws the cellophane S, and infamously you're like, where did that come from? And then you have the like beaming all over the place. Like, what the hell is happening there? I think it's supposed to be resources he has in the fortress.
Oh,
Not
okay.
like abilities he has, but how would you know? Because then also you have the magic kiss at the end, and that's just a random power that we threw him that he didn't have before. So he is still just writing in like random crap to get out of a situation each scene. And I still put that movie above the original because I'm a freaking hack. Okay.
Although, unironically, I still love the cellophane S. It's beautiful. I like it more than
That's so
that
Golden
being that
Age.
simple.
Like,
It's
that
so
is
good.
not a thing you could have put past Golden Age Superman.
No, exactly. It's not far from Superman holding his hand and a little Superman coming out of it.
Leo says the magic kiss makes Superman come across as a real creepy bastard. Like, how many times has he done it to her? Well, yeah, that's a question.
Do you think Perry was ever like, Clark, kid, you're late for work. I'm gonna dock your pay. And then Clark just kissed him.
Yeah, he could be doing that to all. I mean, like, it's basically the Kryptonian version of the neuralizer from Men in Black.
Mhm.
He's
Pretty
just
much.
flashy thinging people, except in like a way more intrusive way. You know, because he
Yeah.
basically he basically has to violate you to do it. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly.
But
Superman
he's
should have been one of
But he's
the,
a wonderful role model for children. I'm sorry, what?
No, I agree. He is a great role model for children. Kiss people and your problems will go away.
Okay, so since you already threw your 10,
You don't have to, though. I only did that so that next time he wouldn't start with Superman. Like having to do it again.
I was going to say, I'm sort of between next time you just go ahead and throw that out again and remind us.
That's what I figured I would do. I can do that next time. I just figured it made more sense than us getting back into the conversation.
No, I'm really glad that you did that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'm going to go that way because I'd rather get to just go down the clean 10 rather than give you
No,
my
same.
10 now and then go next
Same.
time the top 9.
Exactly. No, same here. It made sense while you were at 11. Like, otherwise, because I know us, we'll be talking about Superman for 15 minutes.
Yeah. Dude, again, it's like, you guys have already done this. Like, shut the hell up. Move on.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we're finally at our top 10. It has
Yeah.
taken us months, but I have thoroughly enjoyed this ridiculously lengthy conversation, Austin.
I know, we're finally getting down to the wire.
Thanks for doing all this.
30
with me,
more
man.
episodes.
I don't know. It's been just like with the history videos, though. It's just been a real fun walk down memory lane. Like, I haven't wanted to rush it.
You haven't want to spin the earth around to get out of it? Go back to before we did this?
Well, I certainly don't want to magic kiss you so you forget that we did this.
Maybe I already have.
It's possible. Richard Lester gave me the ability to do
Wait a
that
minute.
from Kansas to Canada.
Is that why his last name is Lester?
I don't get that.
'Cause he made Superman a molester? Anyways, good night, everybody.
Man, that's great. Right over my head. You know, it is true. Sometimes jokes are funnier when you explain them. Wow.
That's a deep cut.
I'm actually really impressed with that joke.
Thank you.
Nicely done. It's like, and you were like, it's obvious. Like, why don't you just think for a second? It's a word puzzle.
No, I mean, it's also late. I can understand that going over.
It's a word puzzle. Anyway,
puzzle. We love it.
Everybody, thanks for watching. We'll be back again next week for possibly the very end of this, or at least the penultimate episode, and more Superhero Rewind commentaries to come. Next week, we're doing the long-awaited, people just cannot wait to hear us talk about this, the Scooby-Doo animated Blue Falcon movie. Blue Falcon?
Yeah, yes. Mask of the Blue Falcon, with Blue Falcon and his sidekick Dino Mutt.
Yeah, you know what? You know why it's timely? Because we just got the Falcon Cap movie.
There you go. Made it work.
All right, appreciate you guys. Hope you had a good time, and thanks for joining us for the Toxic Avenger commentary. If you were there right before this show, and thanks for watching this live and after the fact. And I'm gonna go to bed. See you later, everybody. Thanks for watching.
See ya.